And we are live. So, like I did just before, this doesn't even feel like a beginning because we just talked for an hour. But I'm gonna wait a bit because I've experienced this myself actually. But between the moment I start the live and the moment you can actually access it, there's a few minutes and you have to keep refreshing. So I'm gonna wait 2 minutes until you can all connect, tune in, and then we shall start. I can see already the first people coming, so I think we are close to starting. Let me know if you can hear me well. Let me know how you are. Let's see. Bonjour. So where are you? Comments and views. So I'm gonna start, guys, because I think I can see that many of you are here. I'm just gonna check in the group that there is no technical issue. Salut, audio sounds good, so we are live. I'm not gonna waste any more time. I'm gonna jump right into it. I have excellent news, guys. First live for Gwen, super, good vibes. The excellent news is I've been working hard to shorten our presentations. And the reason, I know I've been taking a lot of time in the first two presentations, but we had to lay the foundations for the rest of the week, and even more so now by taking out of this presentation the homework, we can keep it straight to the core, to the essence, to the gist of what I want to touch on today. However, I remind all of you who couldn't make it to the homework that there is value in watching them, whether you have sent me a video, in which case I invite you not to skim through the videos just to see when I'm talking about yours, but also if you haven't sent a video, watching me deconstruct everyone's handstands allow you to bridge the gap between what you think you have understood from the presentations and actually what you're going to be able to take home and embody. So it's take it as really as a homework in school, like it's how we integrate the things we have learned. So look at this logo. I'm super happy about this. Captain Baguette actually has a logo now. I mean, it seemed to be so relevant for many of you who are like, no, don't bring Captain Baguette, that I think it's becoming a thing. Like, it was created on the spot. I think it's becoming a thing. It has its own logo. Okay, let's move to the main meal and not waste any more time. As I was saying, today the analysis would be on a separate private live that allows me to keep all your videos very private as well, which is better. And versus this live is going to be public for a few days and then taken out of the internet. So we're just going to focus on the lecture and the homework, and both of them are going to be shorter than yesterday. So good news. Just like I did yesterday, to make sure, if you didn't have time to watch the replay, but to make sure it's fresh and then we keep saying the same things but with different angles. Through different angles, sorry. I'm gonna recap a few elements, a few key elements of what we covered over the last few days. So here is a video, and I'm gonna use my mouse to stop it, where I show different shapes. So remember yesterday we were talking about the magic of being overshot, and the distinction between too overshot, being too overshot, and being overshot just enough. And we understood on Monday that you were way better off being overshot than undershot, and that you were more likely than not to be undershot when you were chasing that H spot that doesn't exist. So a handstand is you being slightly overshot. of course, there's such a thing as overdoing things and overshooting too much, and the whole point of yesterday and today is for us to learn where the line has to be drawn. In that handstand here, as you can see, I have both feet overshot. My bum is slightly overshot or in the axis. And that's pretty much it. If I were to keep reaching out with my feet here, I may have too much of a counterweight past the axis of vertical for me to be able to hold that handstand, and therefore I would fall. So that's the counterweight here, and my bum is the other counterweight. In that shape there, if I again draw the line, which is the thing you want to start doing every time you watch your own footage, right? Draw the line from the first knuckles or the wrists up towards the shoulders all the way to the ceiling and see what you're left with. In that case, I have my bum out and my right foot out, and this is being compensated, which is we're going to be talking a lot about today, with this left foot. Therefore, I can hold that shape. I am still falling against that invisible wall here, but not so much so that I would lose my balance. Guys, if it's your first time tuning in, feel free to comment as well, because this is a discussion, and I can't stress enough the difference it makes to me to be talking to actual human beings. The previous homework video was full of conversations. It was awesome. Versus talking, it's just weird. It's just weird to be talking to a screen for so long. So my bum here is really the first counterweight, and I want you to take that into account. And then the foot follows that direction given by my bum. And finally, I could point that toe, couldn't I, on the left foot. And finally, in that tuck position here, which is very close to the straddle and the frog, we have the bum as the main counterweight. And that explains what we were talking about yesterday and why I was ranting about this in my video. The bum, if you really shoot it overshot past the axis of vertical, it's a heavy thing. Now, to compensate my falling forwards, I am leaving both legs undershot. And so now, from today onwards, every time we are gonna go into the overshot zone, we're gonna start asking ourselves, what is the undershot limb? That is the new thing we want to bring our projector towards. It's not just about being overshot anymore. It's about being overshot the right amount, and you knowing that you are overshot the right amount, or you changing an overshot that went too far out into just on the right zone, is to use the undershot. And for you to use the undershot limbs or the undershot body parts, you have to be aware of them. We're gonna really talk a lot about this today. Undershot, the undershot part of your body is the dark horse, for lack of a better analogy, the one overlooked thing when we train handstand. So, as I was saying yesterday, if you were to bring your feet here as well with this bum out, I mean, it's going to be super hard to hold that. Especially, it's super hard for me, and I have a decently strong handstand. So, maybe don't venture into that territory just yet. So here I'm pointing the undershot limbs, and we understand that handstands, therefore, are a game of levers. Okay, thanks for all the comments, guys. So, as I was saying, undershooting is the key to staying in the overshot desirable zone. So if we bring back our favorite yogi from yesterday, I'm gonna just draw the lines again that we used yesterday for you to remember what we're looking at. We had the green center line from the hands to the shoulders. That's the vertical axis, that's the H spot that doesn't exist. Between the two green lines, we have the desirable overshot zone. Between the center green line and the yellow line, we have the undershot zone, which is where you're going to end up if you chase balance for the sake of balance rather than chasing alignment and overshot. And then we also defined that there was such a thing as being too overshot. So far, so good. Now, I want you to keep this in mind as we move on. And we're going to go over the homework I gave you, because the hard truth I was giving you is that as long as you cannot see in anyone, your friends or on the internet, if they are holding a handstand or not, if they were to take a screenshot of their video, you are not ready to freestand. And it's again the necessity for me as a teacher, whether it's teaching flow work or teaching handstands or teaching anything, to make sure that you are doing things with your body without thinking, but then you take the time to think without doing things with your body. The relationship between you understanding and you embodying the skill you're trying to learn is at the essence of learning things the smart way. And the smart way of learning things is really the core of what we've been talking about over the last 3 days. So always make sure, that's why we don't chase volume anymore. Remember that. We're not just believing that our brain will catch up. We have to understand what a handstand is about, and then we have to practice to connect the dots together and to connect the feelings we experience as we perform handstands with what's actually happening. And that's how we make progress. So let's go back to our embodying, yes, our little drill. So I had different answers, and you're gonna see that this is not as easy as it looks. I prepared myself some honey and lemon today just to make sure that I still have a voice at the end of this challenge. So on the left side, we do have a clearly overshot limb that obviously she's resting on the left top side, right? The blonde girl with long hair. She's clearly resting on the wall, but it's hard to know if we were to remove both sides of the wall where she would fall. I have the feeling that she has some weight on the foot that is undershot. However, if we do apply what we've been seeing together so far, she does have her bum and the whole length of the right leg overshot. That is more than enough to be overshot. So to me, this one is a hard one. It was neither a yes nor a no. She could well be able to hold that, as in if she knew how to balance and if she wasn't just posing. If we go down, so the blonde person with tight hair, we have, it's harder to see from this angle, but we have a bum that is not quite aligned over the shoulders. It's pretty much what we're seeing on the picture on the right side of that. So the person with dark hair with the colored background. This person doesn't have the bum over the shoulders. But let's go back to this person on the left side, the girl. She does have both feet overshot. This might be well enough to bring her into the overshot zone, and she can be well able to hold that line, despite the bum not being aligned. If we go back up on the right side of the homework letters, we have somebody kicking up and probably taking a screenshot. However, why is that? That's always the question. The reason is, if she were to shoot her bum out past vertical slightly more, she will hold this. If she were to bring this foot, this overshot foot, down towards the ground, she would hold this because she would have just the right amount of overshooting limb to hold it. However, here we do have the sensation that the bum is barely overshot. Most of the pelvis is probably undershot, and she has another leg undershot. This is going to be very hard to hold. However, just take a pause here. If she was to extend that flexed hip, so if she was to bring her left foot where her right foot is, to bend both knees and bring both feet overshot, she would be exactly in the same position as your man with the dog yesterday was, where the bum is not overshot, but both legs are compensating for it. This is a handstand, and it would work. If we go down below the homework sign, this is gonna surprise you. This was one of the traps I had laid for you. This can perfectly be held, absolutely, and surprisingly, there is no overshot. That's a different species altogether, which we're gonna call the planche. If the feet and the pelvis are somehow over the hands and the person is strong in that angle, which is a closed shoulder angle, The shoulder angle that we can see here is nowhere near the 180 degrees we want to achieve if we want to have a straight handstand. She can hold it, or he can hold it. No problem. Given the shoes, I'm going to assume she, but I could be wrong. They can hold it. So this is the deceiving one. Planching is the curse that 30-40% of the beginners have to go through. And it's the curse that you are more likely to face if you have shoulder restriction. So if you cannot really open your shoulders, you are likely to become super strong in a closed shoulder angle, and this might become possible. Now, unfortunately, even if this holds, imagine that I am pulling their left foot 1 inch more towards undershot. What happens? They fall. Like, there's no discussing about this. So the room for error here, again, is not great, and so this is not the most reliable shape and resilient shape. On the right side on the beach, we have somebody who is piking. We'll talk more about piking because this sounds like a big bad thing, but it's not necessarily if it's done the proper way. We have the bum overshot and both feet undershot. This can be held. It's hard to tell. I'm gonna change the fact that she might not be holding it for long because she's on the sand. However, like if you will look at something else than the actual overshot, undershot limbs, we can see that she's pointing her toes properly. She must have some experience in doing this. It's hard to tell whether or not she's holding it by the overshot, undershot, because the bum indeed is compensating for the feet and vice versa. We can bet both. So see, it wasn't as easy as we might have thought. To finish, on the right top hand side, we have on the close to the sea, right, with a rising sun, we have, or setting sun, somebody who again could be well planching, and we are more likely than not going to assume that he's falling back undershot because he has nothing overshot. However, if he is strong, he could be holding that because neither the bum nor the feet are too undershot. But again, this is not a very resilient and anti-fragile position. And it's nowhere near what we want to achieve if we want to be able to work on more complex variations, as I was saying yesterday and Monday. And I just put the one on the right bottom corner for the sake of showing you that inversions for the yogis in the room, they share commonalities. Once you start being able to decipher what happens with the handstands, you start being able to decipher what happens with every inversion. So really, handstands are these beautiful things. Once you understand the science behind a straight handstand, you can apply it to any inversion, and that applies to breakdancing, to yoga, to capoeira, to movements, any shape, as we've been working on together. Becomes easy to understand, and once you can understand it, you can embody it, going back to this little drawing I was showing you just before. So in her case, she's most likely holding it. Now we're gonna draw a line between the elbows, which are the main point of support, and the shoulders all the way up. The bum is undershot, but it's being compensated by the feet overshot. Now the one thing we can also understand from here, for all of you who are dying for these presentations to finally cover alignment and what it takes to be straight, is it seems that anytime the bum is undershot, it seems like the feet have to be overshot, both of them, for us to hold it. Anytime that the bum is overshot, like the girl on the beach on the left side here, it seems that the feet have to be undershot to compensate for it. And I'm going to invite you today to start thinking about this in terms of what your goal handstand is, what your handstand goal is. Is it more desirable to be with an undershot bum, or more desirable to be with an overshot bum? And you have to, again, draw the line here. So let's continue. I'm going to reassert this one last time. Our goal is to consistently get into the overshot zone and to not overshoot too much. Stay within the manageable overshot zone. Now we're gonna call this undershot zone, we're gonna remember that to get into the overshot zone, we need an overshot counterweight. Now, if you draw the line, as we were doing just before, there's something past that line and before that line. Anything that's past that line is a overshot counterweight, or OCW. Anything that's before that line is an undershot counterweight, or UCW. And my suggestion for you today, which is going to be at the core of our homework, is that if you do not bring your attention to your undershot counterweight, you won't be able to hold a handstand. Knowing where your undershot counterweight is comes before knowing what to do with your fingers, which itself comes before you being able to balance. And yet, we really usually don't pay attention much to the undershot counterweight, and the videos I went through today, and I invite you to watch the replays, do not disprove that. So here's a little video I want to show you before we move on. Here's David, and this is going to illustrate a good few things when it comes to alignment, and I think alignment, and I hope it will be enlightening for you to really understand what's happening. So David is no beginner anymore, but that's a that's a beautiful success story. If I recall well, David was not able to kick up against the wall when we began at all. So for all the people in the room who are really beginners, and I'm gonna call you, there's such a thing as the cat people and the dog people, right? The cat people get into the room and they settle on the side and they observe. And the dog people are like, me, I want to do it. And I'm a cat person, so I will be like you. I'll be observing here, sinking in the information, but not necessarily sending videos. I want to tell you, and that's also for Michael, who was asking a question on the previous video for his partner. If you cannot touch the ball, this is where you get when you are disciplined and you know what you're doing. So David is overshooting on this one. And I want you to feel the tipping point here. Tipping point has been achieved, and suddenly this leg is going to keep traveling towards the overshot zone. We have too many overshots, counterweight, we fall. Does it start to make sense? Now let's see another example. That was undershot. This time, both feet didn't go quite overshot, therefore he was not falling forward, therefore he was not in the overshot zone. And here we have our planchy thing, yeah? Back to the two people who were doing this in our images. There's not necessarily anything overshot, maybe one foot is, but we have a lot of things undershot. However, he is very strong here and he can hold it there. Same thing here. Can you see that? That's a very interesting shape, and it's not a wrong shape. Now, David wants a straighter handstand, therefore we have to work with this. But when it comes to freestanding, you have to know that there will be always a gap between what you can do against the wall and what you can do freestanding. And maybe when you work freestanding, because you're picking that piece of the puzzle and working on it, you're better off freestanding for the sake of freestanding rather than being obsessed by your line. Be obsessed by your line when you can freestand 30 seconds, please. But again, otherwise you're putting the cart before the horse. Does that make sense, guys? Does that make sense? I hope it does. Moving on, I found a very cool video on TED, the TED Talks. I just cut it. I want to show it to you because it illustrates the idea of counterweights that I need you to really feel and understand whenever you're performing a handstand. And look at this, that's super important for us. Yeah? So, what's happening here? We have a clearly overshot positioning. This is a big limb, a bum out, and maybe not enough of a counterweight this way. Now, the first thing I want to remind you is this is more what a handstand actually is than this, which is the misconception we always have when we begin. We thought that this is the H spot, guys. It doesn't exist. A handstand actually is more that. Now, maybe the beast is a bit too heavy and we have to pull ourselves back to the towards the undershot zone so that the beast doesn't make us fall forward, so that we do not lose it like David lost it in the first attempt we just saw. So for you to do that, one obvious way, mechanically, right? This is biomechanics. One easy way is to pull on that undershot limb until you make the overshot lighter. Can you feel that? So one way of acting on this is to use this thing. Whatever you decided to keep undershot is actually way more important than you think, because this is what's going to prevent you from being too overshot. Whew, that's a mouthful. So that's why I'm saying UCW, or the undershot counterweight, is one of the most, I'm missing an S, one of the most overlooked things when it comes to handstands. Okay? That's kind of counterintuitive. It's because chances are you won't always reach the right amount of overshots, and so you may have to correct your shape. That's what I call reshaping. In reshaping, what we really want to bring our attention to is the undershot limb. Now here is a counterintuitive tip, and this is where we talk about should we bring the feet together or not, and many of you had this question before. The more obvious your counterweights, the easier your life is going to be. The less you can distinguish between the fragile little being on the left side of the video we just saw and the big beast overshots, the harder your life is going to be. When we are in a straight handstand, it's just harder to use our undershot limb, I mean with both feet together. When we have both feet together, what is your undershot limb exactly? It's way harder to answer that question. Versus when you have both legs scissored, which is what we're going to call the Y position, we have a clearly overshot limb and a clearly undershot limb. And that is why I think this is one of the best shapes you can invest your time in as a beginner, and until you have a 15-second handstand. So here it comes. And I'm not saying it's the only way, by the way. Of course, like in gymnastics and in some very prestigious handstand schools, we only learn feet together. There is no such thing as learning the Y. But again, do you have 10 hours a day to train? Or do you want to make the best use possible of your time? I need you to feel the counterweights. There's no negotiation around that. And the easiest way to do that is to have clear counterweights. So here's the Y. And here's bringing the feet together. When I bring my feet together, where is my counterweight undershot? Yeah, if you draw a line here, where is it? It's going to be very hard for me if I don't manage the power in my legs to land there just the right amount. On the other hand, even if I land harshly on the floor, in that position, my left leg can correct and counterbalance anything that my right foot is doing. Hence, my suggestion to you, let's use this Y shape, which some of you are not very familiar with. So that's going to be our homework. Now, I want you to do something. You're going to stand up. And we're going to lean against the wall. So we are up and we are leaning against the wall like this. Your feet are firmly anchored on the floor. Do it with me. And our skull is resting on the wall. Our upper back is resting on the wall, and we're gonna try to give as much weight as possible on that wall. That is being too overshot. Now, if we relax a bit and try to pour more weight on our feet and try to rest lightly against the wall, that is being slightly overshot, which is what we're trying to do right here, which is the key of a handstand. Now, if you lean heavily again, imagine that you are extending your hands outwards and that somebody is pulling you this way. So you have your arm out and somebody is pulling you this way. Very gradually, what happens? Your weight is gradually being taken away from the wall back into the feet. That is the power of an undershot counterweight. Because you're gonna be too overshot many times in your life as a hand balancer. But your undershot limb allows you to save that whenever that happens. When we are remember the first video of today, when we are in a straddle or a tuck, the undershot limb is actually, the undershot limbs are both feet, both legs. But when it comes to the straight handstand we want to master, we're going to be practicing in the Y or scissored position for that very reason. And this is why I am not a big fan of people being obsessed with landing both feet against the wall. Because even if it's not necessarily wrong per se, you can tell that it is likely to put them in a position where they have too much of an overshot counterweight. Have a look at this little drawing. If we remove the wall, what happens? The person falls. She's too overshot. She's leaning too much against that wall. And that's very likely to happen if you have both feet there. On the other hand, if she had one leg out, she could compensate for that and be resting more lightly against that wall, the same way we would be resting lighter against that wall if somebody was to pull our arm out. So to all the people, all the participants who are used to bringing both feet together, I invite you to ask yourself why. Again, don't take what I'm saying for granted, but why are you practicing both feet together? Because you were told to do so? And why is that? Because certainly when we understand the physics behind handstands, we understand that our life is going to be way easier when we have a Y shape. It's not because I say so, it's because physically this is how it works. So, if you know why you're doing it, I have nothing against that, absolutely nothing against that. But if you're trying to achieve a handstand in the shortest amount of time possible, if you're trying to train smartly, then at the very least, you have to integrate some form of a Y shape in your training. I'm not saying you should forget everything you've learned so far. I'm saying see how much better you feel everything that's happening in your hands from the beginning of this challenge. Same thing here. Practice this, treat this as a research drill if it's too hard for you to wrap your head around the idea that you're gonna hold a Y shape. And I promise it will serve your feet together shape. I promise that. Now, I have good news. We are done. I told you I'm getting better at this. I'm gonna talk about the homework. So, homework, I'm gonna show you, yes? Homework. I want you to, just like we've done on Monday and on Tuesday, I want you to prime yourself on all 6 and prime yourself on all 4 to feel the tipping points on the way in and on the way back. Now, no H spot today anymore. I hope that the distinction between chasing the H spots and going overshot was obvious, was clear. Now we're gonna overshoot and try to land on the wall with only one foot. That is, in essence, the Y position I was talking about just before. Then, just because I don't want to be dogmatic, I want you to overshoot and land both feet to the wall. But as I was saying in the homework live video, I will invite all of you who are doing this and all of you who are still not doing it but are going to try today, if you can reach the wall obviously, to land both feet at the same time. And I'm going to invite you to inquire why. Why am I asking you to land both feet at the same time? There is always a reason in my method, and I need you to figure it out. And obviously I will tell you the answer tomorrow. So 10 kick-ups-ish, 1 foot to the wall in sets of 3 to 4, and 10 kick-ups-ish, 2 feet to the wall. Then, because we've seen in so many instances today that the bum can be the overshot counterweight, 10 kick-ups with the bum and only the bum landing first on the wall, if that's possible. And finally, the position you've been working on, the exploration drill you did yesterday, when you were trying to find an overshot position with which you could rest lightly against the wall, I want you to use it again. And I want you to try to kick up and find this position before you even touch the wall. But to answer Venus' question from the previous live, from the homework live, I don't want you to chase balance. That would be going back, reverting to bad habits. I still need you to overshoot no matter the price. You're better off landing like this than not landing at all. I need you to overshoot, and I need you to try to overshoot and get into that weird shape you had. This is what the homework looks like. So you will have this video. I'm going to post it the minute we are done with this live. Sunny day. So you're going to go on, where are we? All 4, do the drill. All 6, sorry. All 4, do the drill. And then that's the explanation. We're going to kick up, land 1 foot. We're going to kick up. Where is the 2 feet, Vincent? Where is my 2? Ah, you're going to kick up, land both feet at the same time. And finally, you're going to kick up and try to land your bum and only your bum on that wall. Now that's a very slow landing, but even if it goes a bit harsher, that is fine for me. Okay? And you will have, and that's the kick up with the weird shape. Where is it? Here. And there is no judgment in your weird shape. Where was it? Hop. That's mine for today. Okay? And same idea, same volume, 10 to 15 of them. Okay, I hope this is clear. I want you to start asking questions because, again, I am not one to tell you what to do. I am one to guide you to find your own answers, and then we see that we do have the same answers. I need you to be able to frame what is supposed to happen in a handstand by yourself, because this is the smartest way to train and to learn. These are the questions I need you to keep in mind if this is not too overwhelming. If you've been practicing kicking up against the wall before, this is certainly what I want you to ask yourself. If this is still quite new, just do the homework like I'm describing, do the shapes, and forget about that. But for the sake of understanding what we're doing, I need those of you who are a bit more comfortable to ask first, to tell me this tomorrow. Which one of the 3 kick-ups, of the 4 kick-ups, foot to the wall, feet to the wall, bum to the wall, and weird shape, felt the most comfortable? Every time you were kicking up, which was your overshot counterweight and which was your undershot counterweight? And every time you landed against that wall and stayed a few seconds, as we said you should do before, when you pull on that undershot counterweight, when you bring the undershot limb even more undershot, when the person is pulling you off that wall, what happens? In other words, can you come back down only using the undershot counterweight? And can you make that happen slower and slower? A last question, which we will dive more into in the rest of the challenge. How early in your kick-up are you counterweights prepared? Do you wait until you landed against the wall to do it? Or are you already in the right shape as you kick up? And from that, how is the answer of that question to that question feeding your dependency to the wall? That's a bit more of a philosophical question, but I need you to start asking yourself these and we will answer them. Okay? Now, Q&A. Oh, I have something. You're up for a treat. I woke up with a surprise. I am a lucky guy. You know what? This Captain Baguette thing I was mentioning in the intro? I didn't do it. I found it on internet and it became such a thing. I was afraid I would have copyright problem. I woke up with a surprise. And it's both disturbing and beautiful. Look at this. Isn't that crazy? I don't know how I feel about seeing myself, but I found that very funny, and what I do know is that I can use that no problem. Do the homework properly and don't let Captain Baguette get upset. Now, let me answer your questions. I'm gonna go back here. Here we go. So I hope that was clear, guys. How do I find your questions? Here. If you have any questions, shoot them now. I received some and I forgot to talk about them yesterday, so I'm gonna start with that. The first question was, I can't make the difference, I don't see a difference between going for the hate spot and overshooting. The reason, and that's a question I've heard a lot. The reason for that is that every time you go for the hate spot, you already overshoot. Going for the hate spot is an exploration drill. Going for the hate spot is what you're doing when you kick up without a wall, or when you kick up and you're trying not to use the wall and you end up undershooting. Excuse me. So the goal is not to overshoot or to do anything else, but to chase balance. Chasing the hate spot is to chase balance. And I just wanted you to take note of what happens when you chase balance. Chasing the hate spot is not exactly the same as you landing on the wall and then resetting yourself to balance. That's something else. That's chasing balance in another way. So if you didn't feel any difference between chasing the hate spot and overshooting, then good for you. You are an overshooter, and as we've been saying and understanding over the last 3 days, overshooting is the key to the handstand. Okay? Second question I received is, I can't make the challenge. When is the next one? There will not be a next one anytime soon. And when I say anytime soon, I mean before 2021 most likely. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Mainly, I spend my life teaching either classes or workshops in France and in Europe and with my online students. And this is a momentum we're building, and we're gathering a small community around that. And obviously, it just takes time, even more so because I've been designing a course to follow up with that if you want to keep diving with your handstand practice. And that takes time because I want to keep coaching the people who decide to continue. Now, the course is not open anyway just yet, so we will touch more on that later. But the reason, because I want to be providing value, I can obviously not be doing this kind of intervention and presentations every month. So maybe I will do one in French if you happen to be one of the French people in the crowd, and fair play if you are, because us French, we are in general allergic to English. But that's all. Then it will be 2021 most likely. So I want to go over the questions I've received. Ross, I'm just seeing your comment right now. I am sorry that my face might have been masking the image. I will send the images of the undershot, overshot analysis on the group so that you make sure you can see that. So I am not sure if I can do that anymore. So some of you have been taught not to land both feet on the wall, and that would have been people who have been working with me in class before. And why is that? Now you know the answer for that, yeah? 1, having both feet overshot make you very prone to being too overshot. 2, when we are after a straight handstand, what did we see? And if it is not clear, rewind. Rewind to the beginning of this presentation, because it's super important that you get it. If you have both feet overshot, what you're most likely to have is a bum undershot. If your bum is undershot, your bum is not over your shoulders. If your bum is not over your shoulders, you are not straight. But we're gonna talk about what straight means tomorrow. Okay? Bree is asking, I can't do bum to wall without collapsing. If you find yourself collapsing, then there is a host of progressions, which I won't have the time to dive into during this week, but in your case, you're going to land one foot or both feet against the wall, and you're gonna take a few seconds there. And then you're gonna shoot your bum out until your bum reaches that wall or gets closer to that wall. No matter what you're doing, you should not allow yourself to collapse. What's happening is that when you place your center of mass over your shoulders, your wild horse goes, no, you're gonna fall. I don't want that. So it is breaking and you're falling. The rider is falling over the obstacle. So we need to soothe the wild horse. For you to do that, if you find yourself collapsing, don't insist. Volume doesn't equal success. So you're gonna land against the wall and then shoot your bum as you're keeping your feet against that wall. Shoot your bum out and see what happens. The moment you feel that you start collapsing, stop everything, stay there, breathe, and tell your wild horse that everything's gonna be okay. And I promise this will yield results. Gaspar, right? Do you have a recommended simple movement exercise for opening your shoulders? Are your shoulders... Oh, so I think you mean not getting more mobility in your shoulders. I think what you're trying to ask is, how can I open my shoulders properly? And I think you are bouncing back on the feedback I gave during the live. And correct me if I'm wrong. Because from what I've seen in your video, you can open your shoulders enough. You have enough of a range of motion there to do the job. What's happening is that you change the alignment of your shoulders over your hands whenever you do so. Do I have a solution for that? Yes, I do. Many, of course. I want you, over the 4 main drills we have to do today, I want you to mainly bring your attention on the one when you are asked to shoot your bum on that wall. Shooting your bum, having this intention set, the one thing that you are going to think of is, I want to land my bum on that wall. This is already going to change a lot the way you kick up and change a lot how you can keep your shoulders over your hands. So I need you to investigate that, and whenever we get to talk about the chest to the wall practice, which we haven't dived into just yet, we will cover more drills about that. Very sassy. Okay guys, this is it for today. As I was saying, I didn't go through all the videos, and I will continue. So I went through two-thirds of them. Keep sending your videos for tonight's homework. People who didn't make the cut, I will use your videos first thing in tomorrow's private live, and we will do the exact same thing. I think we will do a private live where I go through the homework, and the normal live at 6 p.m. where we're gonna have our lecture. I may do the private live a bit earlier to make sure that we go through the videos that could not be attended to today. However, if you have a burning question from the video and the homework, and that you feel that you need to know the answer to that question before you engage in the new homework, feel free to send me a message through the chat in the app, and I will answer that if you can send them within the next hour or so. Okay, and that's going to be the easiest way to make sure that you're not making any mistake. Otherwise, I will review everything in time tomorrow and make sure that you keep recording, so that, because as you've seen, if you did watch the first live, I always have a thing to say, And this is the best way for you to know if you're doing things right. And that's really what matters with me when I'm working online with people. It's one thing to tell you what to do, it's another to know that you're doing it right. Whew! He said it would be shorter, 50 minutes. Have a wonderful evening. See you tomorrow.